Turn right onto Dover Road. Continue for 1.5 miles. In 300 yards, keep left to continue on Church Street. Keep left to continue on Church Street. Continue for 3/4 of a mile. In 1/4 of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto the M4 slip road to London Heathrow Airport. In 1/4 of a mile, merge onto M4. Continue on M4 for 9 miles.
Okay, so you were a senior advisor to the Treasury's Office of Tax Simplification. Did you give up because you couldn't get anything simplified?
Well, I was there as a specialist on self-employment small businesses, so actually we did quite a lot of work on that for about 3 years, and then Brexit happened and it got put on hold.
Right. So all tax simplification, or largely, got put on hold because of Brexit. Is that right?
No, because they've continued on to other areas, for example, VAT and inheritance tax. In fact, but the area that I was dealing with was, has been largely put on hold.
When was the last time inheritance tax thresholds were increased?
Do you know, I can't remember because that's not my specialist.
It's about 2009, I think.
It's quite a long time ago.
Okay. The Treasury knows exactly what they're doing, don't they, with fiscal drag, for instance?
I don't think, to be honest, there's anything else that they could do at this moment in time, because the fiscal drag policy is based on it's a deflationary measure to try and dampen down the economy, because we've got raising inflation. So it's not just dragging people into a higher threshold, it is actually to slow the economy down so we don't have a boiling pot, if you like.
The government's decision to freeze income tax thresholds rather than raising them in line with inflation is set to affect more households and cost them more in tax than initially estimated when the plan was announced last spring. Obviously, inflation is going up. This is House of Commons library analysis commissioned by the Lib Dems, who we'll speak to in just a second. An extra 1.2 million people will be driven into the 40p higher rate tax band, which starts at 50,000 just over, by 2026. People generally don't know what fiscal drag is, do they?
They don't know, and I think the thing is that people don't understand this is stealth tax. So instead of raising taxes by freezing them, people think they're not going to be affected by a tax, but they realise that they're going to be dragged into a higher rate over the next 5 years.
I know you're a tax specialist, but you're also a person like Or is it just a question of, look, the government need money, and that's it?
I can look at it from an individual point of view, but also I am a business, so I'm a limited company, and also I work a lot with self-employed. And I think the problem is that the government isn't looking at the totality of what is going on at the moment. So you've got a lot of different taxes and cost of living that you've also got a sort of perfect storm, if you like, that they perhaps weren't aware of.
In 300 yards, at Langley roundabout, take the second exit onto the M4 slip road to M25 London.
That were announced, which at the time might have seemed sensible, but then you've got the increase in energy costs, the increase in fuel costs, the interest rates have gone up, so mortgage is going to be higher. And for example, for the self-employed and small businesses, you've got a corporation tax rate rise. Although it's on a sliding scale, you've got the increase in the national insurance contributions for both the employer and the employee. So the totality of all these tax raises, the thresholds being frozen, people being dragged into higher brackets, plus the household costs increase is a tsunami waiting to happen, which I think somebody mentioned yesterday.
And just lastly, when it comes to the self-employed, contracted, those who contract, freelancers,
Exit the roundabout onto the slip road.
How distant Tories have been, the Conservative Party have been, on the treatment of these people and what they contribute to the economy. I don't know too many self-employed or contracted people right now who are thinking, oh, they've done a really good job. I can tell you, it's unbelievable.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
I think the narrative around it all.
Exit the roundabout onto London Road.
Yeah, well, I was actually campaigning last year for the government to give more meaningful support to limited company directors and to the self-employed who are excluded from support. So on top of all this that's going on now, there are a huge section of the self-employed and businesses who are excluded and are struggling with that. And their impression of the Tories, who should be a part of...
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on London Road A4.
I'm so disappointed that they don't seem to understand small business at all, and the small business population is huge compared to the medium and large size businesses. It's very disappointing.
And just people getting on, trying to be self-employed and therefore having absolutely no protection whatsoever that you would get if you were an employee. I mean, most people in this country say, "No, you're a bunch of tax dodgers." It's like, no, you're just not working for somebody else. That's it. You're working for yourself and trying to build a business, maybe even employ people in the future yourself. And it's like, no, you're bad. We're going to persecute you. That's been the narrative. It's unbelievable.
Well, the other thing is that a lot of businesses are having to pivot at this moment in time because they're having to find other ways to earn money, and so they're having to invest. And the government should be helping them out with more grants to encourage growth within these businesses and within the self-employed, and they're just not doing that.
Maybe they've never been self-employed themselves, so they've never known that feeling of where the hell the next job is coming from. Rebecca, thank you very much. Rebecca Seeley-Harris, a tax specialist. 7:13, Christine Jardine, Liberal Democrat MP and the party's Treasury spokesperson. Christine, good morning to you.
Good morning, Andrew.
What are we going to do with the cost of living? There's a good question.
Well, the cost of living is getting quite scary. There are people up and down the country now who are worried about how they're going to make ends meet this winter with the huge, as you mentioned earlier, cost of energy increase, the cost of living increase, the fact that the Tories are now going to be pursuing, and those House of Commons figures that you mentioned earlier tell us that there will be more than 1 million people who will have to pay tax, who would not be paying tax if the Tories had frozen the threshold. Now, say, well, people should pay tax, yes, but remember the tax threshold is there so that those on the lowest income can keep more of their income. And what the figures also tell us is that households in England and Wales are going to be paying almost £500 a year more in the next 5 years, and that's just not acceptable at a time when inflation is running so high. We've got the energy prices increased, the cost of living squeeze that we're all facing. It's just going to clobber people who are already struggling.
At what point do you start paying tax?
Well, at the moment it's 12,500. But what we really need what we really need, Andrew, is for the government to actually pay attention to things that you just heard from your previous caller about how people are struggling and how people, frankly, who voted Conservative are looking at them and thinking, this is not what I voted for. They are out of touch with what ordinary people need and what ordinary people are going to be facing this winter.
Well, so what would you do first? Do you want to start with gas and electric? I mean, is this something that would you reduce the green levies on that? 25% of the bill right now. The cap's about to be increased. People are going, well, shall I eat or shall I eat?
Well, what we've talked about is that first of all, increasing the winter allowance, the work loans allowance, but there are companies in this who are making massive profits, massive extra profits. Now, not an ordinary increase in profits, but a massive increase in profits at the cost of people who are going to be paying massive energy bills. And what we want to see is a windfall tax on those companies who have made money out of buying gas at last year's prices, buying it in advance, and now they're selling it at a massively increased price. And what we want to see is a windfall tax which would raise about £5 billion and could be put in to helping those families who this winter being forced to choose between things like heating and food. And that's what we want to see.
Should they reverse the national insurance rise, Christine, as well?
The national insurance
There's congestion ahead.
That hike is going to squeeze the families on the lowest income. So yes, that was we said from the very beginning that the national insurance hike was the wrong way to go. Also, it's another broken promise.
We know.
Yeah, but think about it. Those people that the people who are going to be affected, a lot of them voted for the Conservatives based on the promises that they've made, and now they're being let down by a government that's out of touch and just isn't doing what it promised.
Well, I wonder if they're listening. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Once again, Christine Jardine, Liberal Democrat MP Party's Treasury spokesperson. Cost of living, something that worries you. I remember Dave in Wigan, who sent us a message. He's a teacher. He was genuinely distressed. I remember it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Just look, there are people who just do not know how they're going to cope over the next few months and this year, and who knows how long this cost of living increase is going to go on for. You just don't know. Tell me your circumstances if you will. 0345 6060 973. And coming up, I don't know if you see Kazakhstan, it's unbelievable. The president there has ordered security forces to shoot to kill without warning as the crackdown on protesters escalates rather dramatically. Here's expert John Heddershaw.
The catalyst was protests against prices of liquefied petroleum gas, but they reflect sort of bigger concerns about the country being seen by its citizens as a kleptocracy that works primarily for the ruling elite and not for the citizens as a whole.
We'll have a look at Kazakhstan and Saturday morning's papers. It's the 8th of January. Time is now 7:17. Lottie Morley with the news.
In a quarter of a mile, use the right 2 lanes to turn right onto Stanwell Moor Road, A3044.
A 27-year-old's now been arrested over the death of a man who was stabbed in West London. Government scientists have agreed there's no immediate need for a 4th COVID jab. LBC weather, windy today with some heavy rain at times with highs of 11 degrees. LBC Travel, I'm Louise.
Use the right 2 lanes to turn right onto Stanwell Moor Road, A3044. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the second exit and stay on Stanwell Moor Road, A3044. Exit the roundabout onto Stanwell Moor Road. Continue on Stanwell Moor Road for 1 mile. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Southern Perimeter Road. Exit the roundabout onto Southern Perimeter Road. In 200 yards, at Western Perimeter Road roundabout, take the second exit and stay on Southern Perimeter Road. Exit the roundabout onto Southern Perimeter Road. Continue on Southern Perimeter Road for 1.5 miles. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the third exit onto Beacon Road. Exit the roundabout onto Beacon Road. In 100 yards, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Stanwell Road. Exit the roundabout onto Stanwell Road. Continue on Stanwell Road for half a mile. In a quarter of a mile, turn right onto Hatton Road. Turn right onto Hatton Road, then turn left onto Staines Road. Turn left onto Staines Road, A315. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Staines Road, A315. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Staines Road, A315.